Hi there. This week I was looking to do a wee section on what I call subtlety in dialogue and action. So what do I mean by that? What do I mean by subtlety? Subtlety is basically just means something that's it's not as in your face, essentially. And what you're trying to avoid with writing, or the kind of balancing act that you're doing, is that obviously you know that what you're writing isn't real, and the reader or the audience knows that what they're reading isn't necessarily real, but you're trying to create a kind of situation. You're trying to create something that they can believe in, and something that is believable, and something that they buy into, and a great way of doing that is this, what I'm talking about here, is the subtlety in dialogue and action. A big thing that takes people out of the reality of what's happening in media is when things aren't subtle enough, or are too, as I say, in your face. What do I mean by that? Well, the classic example is like soap operas. Soap operas are what they call very melodramatic. So I'll give you an example in terms of writing here. Okay, so you get the point. Essentially, what I'm saying here is that there's not any kind of subtlety in what's happening here. It's very just like soap opera, melodramatic, someone confronting someone else very directly, being like, you done this thing. No. And this is your typical, soap opera. I can't believe that you stole money out the shop. And there's a few kind of concepts here, but the big thing is that it's about subtext. It's that usually you want the characters and the conversation to kind of skirt around what is actually, happening, without them kind of directly confronting each other. So the idea is that you, as the reader, kind of know what the conversation is actually about, but neither of the characters are really, giving it away. This is a big thing that happens kind of in Game of Thrones, where people are kind of speaking in like weird metaphors and stuff like that, and being, oh yes, the bird always crows at midnight, but and they're basically, a lot of the time, there's kind of conniving plans to take over the crown, the throne. They have these kind of veiled conversations about them, these kind of mysterious conversations where they don't directly say, we should team up and take over the throne. They're not really saying that, so I get the hiccups. It's more subtextual than that, and this idea is something that I think it seems a bit more realistic, and is also a bit more interesting than just kind of your direct kind of confrontation like this. Change that word in a wee bit. Eric sauntered into the room with an air of smugness. Danny knew it was him, even if he wouldn't. Okay. Now, this is the kind of concept I've talked about before, which is like getting the reader to ask questions. So if I say something here like what I've said, Eric sauntered into the room with an air of smugness, Dan knew it was him and knew he would never admit it, right? But I don't give any more information. I'm being selective about the information that I'm giving. So I'm just giving the information that, and that's what this is. That Danny was Eric's brother, but they had always been at odds. What I'm trying to do here is set up, I'm basically just saying Danny and Eric are kind of in conflict, like they're at conflict, and that's me saying that very directly. That's what I was talking about, as well as the dialogue being kind of subtle, or a bit more subtle, or a bit more, I don't know if I've spelled that right, I'll need to double check that. I don't think I have. Sorry. As well as the dialogue being subtle, the action subtle as well, so rather than just being very direct and saying, they were always being at odds, there's not much to question there. You're just like, okay, so the two of them don't like each other then. But with when I say Danny knew it was him, and he knew he would never admit it, you're thinking, oh, what, admit what? You know, what won't he admit? What did he do? Like, the reader starts asking themselves all these questions. So yeah, I've said Eric and Danny are I've set that up, they're at conflict, but I've also set up this deeper question of, well, what happened? What was Danny up to? So then what I would do is, if I was going to put in some dialogue, this is where you get to the kind of the Alfred Hitchcock thing of, now they talk about baseball almost. So I wouldn't want to directly, start it off with Danny saying like, oh, did you know that my Haribo was missing? I maybe don't want to start with that straight away. But that's essentially where it's going to lead into, is like then them kind of skirting about that conversation. So maybe then what I want to do is have the conversation lead into that in some way, said Eric. Now usually if I'm having a diet, this is something else for dialogue, this is not really specific to this, but just in general, usually I like to have the characters doing something as well, so it kind of like mixes in the dialogue with the action happening. What it sounds like. Okay, so Eric sauntered into the room with an air of smugness. Danny knew it was him and knew he would never admit it. Can't believe it's the weekend already, said Danny as he turned the pegs on his guitar, strumming an individual string every so often to tune it. Yeah, I mean, the weeks are just flying in her. Eric walked towards the tumble dryer on the other side of the utility room and began filling it with clothes. His back was turned to Danny, but Danny could feel his pompous grin seeping through the back of his head. So I've just added in a wee bit more, okay? So about how, so I'm just dusting in wee bits of action here. What kind of things could they be doing while they're talking? That just, although I've not physically described them in any way, like I've not given like, he looks like this, he looks like that, which sometimes you want to avoid that, like straight away, because, and you want to more pepper it into kind of things like this. Now you've got an idea of, you're kind of imagining someone that's, smug, pompous, they're grinning. So you're already kind of building an image, but it's a bit more vague. I'm not being specific about like eye colour or hair colour or these kind of things. And you can have those things in there, but you just need to watch that it doesn't seem like you're just, given a big list of, he had this and this and his legs were this size and he was this, like you want it to feel a bit more natural. So sometimes, having them do actions and then describing those actions, you can then describe what what they look like. So here maybe I could say something about, if his back was turned, I could talk about, if he had, I don't know, a scar on his back or something like that, then I could maybe talk about that. That would make sense. Or, if he's doing something with his hands, like putting something in the tumble dryer, then maybe there's something I can say about his hands. His hands were cracked and thing where they look weathered, and his face, that then lets me talk about his face, because his hands are weathered, his face was weathered as well. But that works better if the character doesn't know the person. If the character knows the person, then it's weird for them then to look at them and go, oh, I'm going to start describing this person. Does that make sense? So you just need to watch that sometimes. Basically, okay, let's just go over what I've wrote there. So rather than this kind of, this more direct, the kind of soap opera, melodramatic kind of just super direct confrontation, people being like, I've tried to make something that's a bit more subtextual. So rather than Danny was Eric's brother, but they had always been at odds. I know you stole my Haribo, Eric said. Eric, said Danny. How dare you accuse me of this, said Eric. The two began to throw punches at each other. Right. So instead of that, we've got this. Eric sauntered into the room with an air of smugness. Danny knew it was him that had done it, I'll say, because that maybe just sounds like I'm saying Danny knew it was him, as in like he knew it was Eric. So I'll make it a bit more clear there. Eric sauntered into the room with an air of smugness. Danny knew it was him that had done it and knew he would never admit it. I can't believe it's the weekend already, said Danny as he turned the pegs on his guitar, strumming an individual string every so often to tune it. Yeah, I mean, the weeks are just flying in, huh? Eric walked towards the tumble dryer on the other side of the utility room and began filling it with clothes. His back was turned to Danny, but he could feel his pompous grin seeping through the back of his head. You know, I bought some Haribo to enjoy over the weekend, but the strangest thing, they're all gone. Eric flinched as the words made their way into his ear. It was only for a fraction of a second. If Danny had blinked, he would have missed it. Eric then continued loading the tumble dryer. That's strange. Well, hope you find them. Yeah, me too. Right, so another thing here, just a wee tiny thing to point out as well, is that I haven't said like who said that there, and that's because then I've said Eric flinched at the words made their way into his ear, because that then implies that whatever was said here was not said by Eric, it was said by the other person in the dialogue. So sometimes you don't always need to say this person said or that person said. I try and minimise how much I say that as much as possible, and let the context of, you know, other things happening dictate that as much as possible, and then if I need to add that in for extra clarification, then I do. But yeah, can you see how that's a bit better than what is happening here? We're talking more, you know, when we're using dialogue, we're giving people an action to do as well, so we can kind of focus on the action a wee bit, you know, as opposed to, you know, talking too much about, you know, he was feeling this way, and that's the thing. I've not said like Danny was angry, Danny was this, but, you know, saying things like, oh, he could feel his like pompousness through his head, and describing him as like sauntering on with smugness and stuff like that. You already, all the context is there for how this character feels about this other character, and then, you know, I've obviously got that wee line in there that's like a wee kind of nugget of an intrigue, a wee bit of, oh, what's happening there, that's crazy. Yeah, and, you know, and then we're not just directly saying you done this or this thing happened. We're trying to get the characters to, you know, skirt about it a wee bit, try and, you know, it's not the most subtle or subtextual, if you want to call it that. It's not mega subtextual, you know. They're talking about something like, subtext would be more like maybe they were talking about something completely different. Oh, do you remember when we were kids and, you know, you took my Haribo? That's the exact same example. But you know what I mean, like, you know, they maybe talk about something that's something else. Maybe if, you know, he'd stole something bigger, like he'd stole his like you know, inheritance or something like that, and then they was talking about, oh, do you remember when we were kids and you stole my car? Yeah, I really battered you for that. And that's him saying like, remember that happened, that'll happen again if you don't give me my inheritance money back. You know, that's more subtext. This isn't necessarily subtext, but you get the idea. It's a bit less direct and it's a bit more, you know, subtle. It's a bit more laying it in there. I just think that seems better. Hi there, guys. So thanks very much for watching that. I hope you get something out of that. I hope that kind of helps you with your writing and things like that. Looking at trying to just make a writing a wee bit more subtle, a wee bit more subtextual, a wee bit more complex, a wee bit more sophisticated. I hope that really helps you. If you get any more further questions or anything like that, be sure to leave them as a comment on the Facebook page, and if you've got any more submissions and things like that for your stories, just send them through to the Dropbox and we'll certainly have a look at it. Alright, well thanks very much, hope you enjoyed, goodbye.